Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So today, we had last night, this morning, a snowstorm. So everything is covered with snow. So, therefore, we should stay at home and be safe. And also understand how Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No matter what our plans may be in life, everything depends on Krishna. And we should never think that we are able to control things. We are being tossed around in the ocean of material life, like pieces of wood floating in a river is being tossed around, and we're always subject to the what you would call adi-daivic, adi-bhotic, adi-atmic types of miseries. So today we have an adi-daivic misery, a snowstorm that's paralyzing everything. And so we should hear, since we're all obliged to stay at home, we should hear transcendental knowledge to uplift us from ignorance to transcendental knowledge and bliss. Because knowledge, when you have knowledge, you become happy because you understand how things are and you're not bewildered by them. So today we're going to hear about Yamaraj and how he instructed his Yamadutas, who were confused about the power of the holy name. And this is in the 6th canto, and it talks. It's the a part of the history of Ajamila. Ajamila, of course, was a devotee who deviated from the path of devotional service and took up a life of sinful activity. But he had 10 kids, and his last child he named Narayana. And near the end, at the end of his life, he was playing with his child. He had taken his child for a walk into a park, and all of a sudden he fell down. He was going to die, and he called out for the child named Narayana. Well, although he was a very, very sinful person, because he called out the name Narayana, and not even meaning Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but his son named Narayana, but he said it without any material desire. He just purely said the name Narayana, calling it out with urgency and sincerity. He was purified of all his sins. So when the Yamadutas came to take him and give him his just or his deserved punishment for being so sinful in his life, the Vishnu Dutas also arrived and they said, no, you can't take him. He has become purified by saying the name Narayana. And the Vishnu Dutas and the Yamadutas correctly said, well, he didn't mean Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was calling his son Narayana. And Vishnu Duta said, yes, that's true, but it doesn't matter because he said the name of Narayana without any material desire. and therefore he's purified. And he said, this is the power of the holy name. Well, the Yamadutas had never heard such a thing, and they tried to argue with the Vishnudutas, but finally they said, well, we're going to ask our Gurudev, Yamaraj. And Yamaraj happens to be one of the Mahajans, great experts in Krishna consciousness. And they went and approached Yamaraj with humility, and they said, there's this man named Ajamil, and he committed many, many sins in his life, and we were rightfully going to take his soul to Narak, to hell, so he can suffer for all his sins. But the Vishnudutas stopped us, and they said he became purified by saying the name Narayana. But he didn't mean Narayana, he was calling his son, whose name is Narayana. So, now, the discussion is going on between King Parikshit and Sukadev Goswami, who's hearing this transcendental story. And so he says, "O my Lord," to O Sukadev Goswami, Yamaraja is the controller of all living entities in terms of their religious and irreligious activities. But his order has been foiled or defeated. His order that Ajamil should be taken to suffer in hell. When his servants, the Yamadutas, informed him of their defeat by the Vishnudutas who had stopped them from arresting Ajamila, what did he reply? So, King Parikshit is fascinated by this story. Of course, King Parikshit is fasting from water and food and sleep, and he's going to die in 7 days. And he's hearing Srimad Bhagvatam spoken by Sukadev Goswami, because that is what a person should do when they know that they're going to leave their body. They should hear Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam from a pure devotee. Sukadev Goswami is a pure devotee. So he hears the story, and he says, what did Ramaraj say to his disciples, the Yamadutas? So, in the purport, there's a short purport to this verse, and it says that, although the Yamadutas were right in going to grab Ajamil's soul and taking him to hell, but the Vishnudutas' statements were triumphant, or they succeeded in stopping the Yamadutas. And now Yamaraj himself is going to validate that. He's going to say, yes, it's actually what they said is actually true. So, in the next verse, 6th canto, chapter 3, verse number 2. O great sage, never before has it been heard anywhere that an order from Yamaraj has been baffled. Therefore, I think that people will have doubts about this, and that no one but you can eradicate that. Since that is my firm conviction, kindly explain the reasons for these events. So, Parikshit Maharaj is saying, look, Yamaraj has never been baffled, in other words, contradicted before. So, people will have doubts about the validity of the Vishnuduta's point of view. So, you please, clear this doubt up in my mind. So that's what a disciple should do. They should always refer to their spiritual masters in form of Shiksha and Diksha Gurus to clear any doubt in their mind. So verse number 3, Sri Sukadev Goswami replied, my dear King Parikshit, my dear King Parikshit, yes. When the order carriers of Yamaraja were baffled and defeated by the order carriers of Vishnu, they approached their master, the controller of the Samyamani Puri, controller of Samyamanipuri and master of sinful persons, to tell him of this incident. So the Vishnu Duta, the Yamadutas, they go see their guru, Yamaraj. The Yamadutas said, once they approached Yamaraj, "Our dear Lord, how many controllers or rulers are there in this material world?" It's a good question. They thought that Yamaraj was the supreme controller. "How many causes are responsible for manifesting the various results of activities performed under the three modes of material nature, sattva guna, raja guna, and tama guna?" This is a very intelligent question by the Yamadutas. They want to know, how many controllers are there? In other words, is there someone greater? Is there a controller greater than Yamaraj himself? And how many causes are responsible for manifesting the various results of activities performed under the three modes of material nature? In other words, is there such a thing as saying the name of God or Narayana in seemingly accidentally at the moment of death, and one is purged of all sinful activities? They want to know if there's such a thing. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura says that the Yamadutas, the order carriers of Yamaraj, were so disappointed that they asked their master, or guru, almost in great anger, whether there were many masters other than him. Furthermore, because the Yamadutas had been defeated and their master could not protect them, they were inclined to say that there was no need to serve such a master. If a servant cannot carry out the orders of his master without being defeated, what is the use of serving such a powerless master? Okay. Then they continue. If in this universe, text number 5, if in this universe there are many rulers and justices who disagree about punishment and reward, their contradictory actions will neutralize each other and no one will be punished or rewarded. Otherwise, if their contradictory acts fail to neutralize each other, everyone will have to be both punished and rewarded. So they're pointing out a whole bunch of discrepancies that they foresee if this affair of Ajamil is not resolved in their mind. And the purport, Prabhupada says, because the Yamadutas had been unsuccessful in carrying out the order of Yamaraj, they doubted whether Yamaraj actually had the power to punish the sinful. Although they had gone to arrest Ajamil, following Yamaraj's order, they found themselves unsuccessful because of the order of some higher authority. Therefore, they were unsure of whether there were many authorities or only one. If there were many authorities who gave different judgments, which could be contradictory, a person might be wrongly punished or wrongly rewarded, or he might be neither punished nor rewarded. According to our experience in the material world, a person punished in one court may appeal to another. Thus, the same man may be either punished or rewarded according to different judgments. However, in the law of nature, or the court of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there cannot be such contradictory judgments. The judges and their judgments must be perfect and free from contradictions. Actually, the position of Yamaraja was very awkward in the case of Ajamila because the Yamadutas were right in attempting to arrest Ajamila, but the Vishnudutas had baffled them. Although Yamaraja, under these circumstances, was accused by both the Vishnudutas and the Yamadutas, he is perfect in administrating justice because he is empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, he will explain what his real position is and how everyone is controlled by the Supreme Controller, the Personality of Godhead. So this is a situation that can happen often in life where it seems as if a everything goes contrary to what one believes to be the truth. And people get confused, and they think maybe there's no truth. Maybe everything is just relative to and to random situations, and thus what is true is untrue, and what is untrue is true. See, so they want to clear this up. Otherwise, why would they follow Yamaraj? If there are different authorities, and all the authorities have different points of view. So text 6. The Yamadutas continued, since there are many different karmis or workers, there may be different judges or rulers to give them justice. But just as one central emperor controls different departmental rulers, there must be one supreme controller to guide all the judges. Okay, that's a reasonable assumption by the Yamadutas. And the purport Prabhupada says, in governmental management, there may be departmental officials to give justice to different persons, but the law must be one, and that central law must control everyone. The Yamadutas could not imagine that two judges would give two different verdicts in the same case, and therefore they wanted to know who the central judge is. The Yamadutas were certain that Ajamila was a most sinful man, but although Yamaraj wanted to punish them, the Vishnudutas excused him. This was a puzzling situation for the Yamadutas, that the Yamadutas wanted Yamaraj to clarify. So this is the exact issue here. You have different tiers of authorities, and it's possible that authority who makes a right decision is countered by a higher authority who can make another decision. So they want this clarified. Is this a fact? Were they wrong in trying to arrest the Ajamil and take him to hell? Was Yamaraj wrong in asking them to do it? Is there a higher authority than Yamaraj? Text number 7. The supreme judge must be one, not many. It was our understanding that you are that supreme judge, and that you have jurisdiction even over the demigods. Our impression was that you are the master of all living entities, the supreme authority who discriminates between the pious and impious activities of all human beings. Okay? So this is the way the Yamadutas considered Yamaraj. But now we see, next verse 8, but now we see that the punishment ordained by your authority is no longer effective, since your order has been transgressed by 4 wonderful and perfect persons, meaning the Vishnudutas, the 4 Vishnudutas that came to stop the Yamadutas from taking Ajamil. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Yamadutas had been under the impression that Yamaraja was the only person in charge of administering justice. They were fully confident that no one could counteract his judgments. But now, to their surprise, his order had been violated by the 4 wonderful persons from Siddhaloka. Text number 9. We were bringing the most sinful Ajamil toward the hellish planets following your order, when those beautiful persons from Siddhaloka forcibly cut the knots of the ropes with which we were arresting him. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura remarks that the Yamadutas wanted to bring the Vishnudutas before Yamaraj. If Yamaraja could then have punished the Vishnudutas, the Yamadutas would have been satisfied. Yeah, because the Vishnudutas stopped the Yamadutas from doing their duty to their guru. So they wanted to see if they could get the Vishnudutas punished for doing that. Text 10. As soon as the sinful Ajamila uttered the name Narayana, these 4 beautiful men immediately arrived and reassured him, saying, "Do not fear, do not fear. We wish to know about them from your lordship. If you think we were able to understand them, If you think we are able to understand them, kindly describe who they are. Okay, so they want to know who these Vishnu Dutas are. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The order carriers of Yamaraj, being very much aggrieved because of their defeat by the four Vishnu Dutas, wanted to bring them before Yamaraj and, if possible, punish them. Otherwise, they desired to commit suicide. Before pursuing their course, however, they wanted to know about the Vishnu Dutas from Yamaraja, who is also omniscient, who knows everything. So you see, because they're loyal disciples of Yamaraj, they don't take any big decision on their own. They first want to have the opinion of their guru before making a final decision about a big decision, such as before they make a before they form a final opinion about a big decision, like committing suicide. So, you see, this is very important. If you have a guru, then you cannot make big decisions on your own. You have to humbly ask the guru, explain the situation, and find out what is the right action to take. Because oftentimes we can act impetuously or without thinking clearly, and then decide to do something that will be harmful not only to us but to others also. So text number 11. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, thus, having been questioned, Lord Yamaraja, the supreme controller of the living entities, was very pleased with his order carriers because of hearing from them the holy name of Narayana. He remembered the lotus feet of the Lord and began to reply. So Yamaraja is happy that his disciples asked this question, and at the same time repeated the name of Narayana. Whenever the name of the Lord is recited, devotees become happy. And Yamaraj is a devotee of Lord Vishnu or Krishna. So he was happy to hear the name Narayana. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. This is text 11. Srila Yamaraja, the supreme controller of the living entities, in terms of their pious and impious activities, was very pleased with his servants because they had chanted the holy name of Narayana in his dominion, where he was residing. Yamaraj had to deal with men who are all sinful and who can hardly understand Narayana. Consequently, when his order carriers uttered the name of Narayana, he was extremely pleased, for he is also a Vaishnava. Text number 12. Yamaraj said, my dear servants, you have accepted me as the supreme, but factually I am not. Above me and above all the other demigods, including Indra and Chandra, is the one supreme master and controller. The partial manifestation of his personality are Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, who are in charge of the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of this universe. He is like the two threads that form the length and breadth of a woven cloth. The entire world is controlled by him, just as the bull is controlled by a rope in its nose. So he's saying, look, even I'm under the control of Narayana or Krishna. So he's answering one question. You know, who's the supreme authority? Because now his disciples suddenly realize he's not the supreme authority. The order carriers of Yamaraja suspected that there was a ruler even above Yamaraj. To eradicate their doubts, Yamaraja immediately replied, yes, there is one supreme controller above everything. Yamaraj is in charge of some of the moving living entities, namely the human beings, but the animals who also move are not under his control. Only human beings have consciousness of right and wrong, and among them, only those who perform sinful activities come under the control of Yamaraja. Therefore, although Yamaraja is a controller, he is only a departmental controller of a few living entities. There are other demigods who control many other departments, but above them all is one supreme controller, Krishna. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchitananda Vigraha The Supreme Controller is Krishna. He's the Ishvara Parama, the Supreme Controller. Others who control their own departments in the affairs of the universe are insignificant in comparison to Krishna, the Supreme Controller. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 7.7, 7th chapter, 7th verse, Matak Parataram Yat Kinchit Asti Dhananjaya. My dear Dhananjaya, Arjuna, no one is superior to me. Therefore, Yamaraja immediately cleared away the doubts of his assistants, the Yamadutas, by confirming that there is a Supreme Controller above all others. Srila Madhavacharya explains that the words Otam Protam refer to the cause of all causes. The Supreme Lord is both vertical and horizontal to the cosmic manifestation. This is confirmed by the following verse from the Skanda Purana, Yata Kanta Pata Sutra Ota Protas Chasa Stitaha Evam Vishna Vidam Vishvam Otam Protam Chasam Stitam. Like the two threads, horizontal and vertical, of which a quilt is manufactured, Lord Vishnu is situated as the vertical and horizontal cause of the cosmic manifestation. In other words, he's the cause of all causes. Nothing is independent of him. So next verse, 13, says, now Yamaraj is speaking. Now he's getting into philosophical explanation to explain to his devotees. Just as the driver of a bullock cart ties ropes through the nostrils of his bulls to control them, the Supreme Personality of Godhead binds all men through the ropes of his words in the Vedas, which set forth the names and activities of the distinct orders of human society, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras. In fear, the members of these orders all worship the Supreme Lord by offering him presentations according to their respective activities. So the Lord is the controller of everyone, and he gives rules and regulations of how people should act according to their position under the influence of the modes of material nature. In the purport, Prabhupada writes, in this material world, everyone is conditioned, regardless of who he is. One may be a human being, a demigod, or an animal, tree or plant, but everything is controlled by the laws of nature. And behind this natural control is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is confirmed by Bhagavad Gita 9.10, wherein Krishna says, Maya dakshena prakriti, suyate sa charachara. The material nature is working under my direction and producing all moving and non-moving beings. Thus, Krishna is behind the natural machine which works under his control. Now, you might ask, why am I reading this today, and what's so important about this pastime? Well, because, most of you, some of you were born in India, some of you were born here, but your parents were all born in India, and in Seattle there are so many kids like yourself who were either born here or born in India, and their parents were born in India, and there are a whole bunch of temples in Seattle area, and those temples are usually called Hindu temples, and also they're Muslim mosques, and there's so many churches. And there's some Jewish temples also. So the question is, why are we hearing this? Because several times in Vedic history, the question has come up, who is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead? And several times it has been answered, and not only answered, but proven that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Like the demigods asked Bhrigu Muni to find out who amongst the Trimurtis, Brahma, Shiva, or Vishnu, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he visited all three, and he came back to them and said, there's no doubt that Vishnu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And here, the Vishnu Dutas thought that Yamaraj was the supreme authority in the universe, but now after this episode with the Vishnu Dutas and the saving of Ajamil, they're finding out that actually there's a greater authority than Yamaraj, and not only he's greater than Yamaraj, he's greater than all demigods. So, when you go, if you visit another temple, Hindu temple in the Seattle area, you'll see that they're worshiping demigods. And they worship the other demigods on an equal level or greater level than Krishna. So don't be confused. Now you have two examples of how this question was discussed already, and it was experimented, and it became proven that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's why we're hearing this pastime today. Otherwise, you can get confused, just like you can go to a Carnatic singing teacher, and she'll make you believe that, Guru Brahma, Guru Shiva, Guru Vishnu, they're all equal. It's not a fact. Or you go to some other temple and the main deity is Durga, and they're worshiping Durga as the supreme controller and personality of Godhead. It's not true. Or they go to another temple and they're worshiping Ganapati as the supreme personality of Godhead. It's not true. The Devas in ancient times, through Brigham Muni, and then now through this history of Yamaraj and the Yamadutas and the Vishnu Dutas, it's been proven that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and validated by all the Mahajans, the 12 great authorities of Vedic knowledge. And they are Brahma, and Shiva, and Narada, and also Yamaraj, and and others. So we should not be confused. Now we have two major histories proving that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in the next couple of weeks, we'll hear about other Mahajans who confirmed the same thing. It's nothing new. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay. So now, in the purport to this verse 13, it says, in this material world, everyone is conditioned regardless of who he is. One may be a human being, a demigod, or an animal, tree or plant, but everything is controlled by the laws of nature, and behind this natural control is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is confirmed by Bhagavad Gita 9.10, wherein Krishna says, Maya dakshina prakriti suyate sa characharam. The material nature is working under my direction and producing all moving and non-moving beings. Thus, Krishna is behind the natural machine which works under his control. So Krishna not only is controller of the material world, he's also the supreme controller of the spiritual world. So there's nothing beyond the spiritual world and material world. It's not like, many, many other worlds. These are the two main, but there's infinite number of material universes, and all of them are controlled by Krishna. And there's the infinite spiritual world of Vaikuntha, Goloka, Vrindavan, that's also controlled by Krishna. Even though there are millions of Vaikuntha planets, they're all controlled by Krishna. And there are millions and billions of material universes, they're all controlled by Krishna. So, the material nature is working under my direction, Krishna says, and producing all moving and non-moving beings. Thus, Krishna is behind the natural machine which works under his control. Apart from other living entities, the living being in the human form of body is systematically controlled by the Vedic injunctions in terms of the divisions of Varna and Ashrama. A human being is expected to follow the rules and regulations of Varna and Ashrama. Otherwise, he cannot escape punishment by Yamaraja. The point is that every human being is expected to elevate himself to the position of a Brahmana, the most intelligent man, and then one must transcend that position to become a Vaishnava. This is the perfection of life. The Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra can elevate themselves by worshipping the Lord according to their activities. And he quotes a verse here, Sve Sve Karmani Abhirata Samsiddhim Labbhate Nara. So that's a verse from Bhagavad Gita in the 18th chapter, verse number. One second, I'll tell you. Mm-hmm. Eighteenth chapter, 45th verse. Sve Sve Karmani Abhirata Samsiddhim Labbhate Nara. By following the qualities of work, every man can become perfect. Now please hear from me how this can be done. Okay. So, the divisions of Varna and Ashrama are necessary to ensure the proper execution of duties and peaceful existence for everyone. But everyone is directed to worship the Supreme Lord who is all-pervading. Yena sarvam idam tatam. That's a quote from 1846, 18th chapter, 46th verse, which says, by worship of the Lord, meaning Lord Krishna, who is the source of all beings and who is all-pervading, a man can attain perfection through performing his own work. So, whatever work you have, if you offer the result to Krishna, and always think of Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna, you can go back to Godhead. You can become perfect. The Supreme Lord exists vertically and horizontally, otam protam, and therefore if one follows the Vedic injunctions by worshipping the Supreme Lord according to one's ability, his life will be perfect. As stated in Srimad Bhagvatam 1.2.13, Atak pumbir drijasestas, varnashrama vibhagasaha, Swanustitasya dharmasya samsiddhir haritoshanam. That's Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.13. O best among the twice born, it is therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve by discharging his prescribed duties or dharma according to caste divisions and orders of life is to please Lord Hari. The Varnashrama institution offers the perfect process for making one eligible to return home back to Godhead, because the aim of every Varna and Ashrama is to please the Supreme Lord. One can please the Lord under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master, and if one does so, his life is perfect. The Supreme Lord is worshipable, and everyone worships him directly or indirectly. Those who worship him directly get the results of liberation quickly, whereas the liberation of those who serve him indirectly is delayed. So indirectly means you worship the demigods, and that just slows down the whole spiritual process. The words namabhir vachi are very important. In the Varnashrama institution, there are different names: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra, Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasi. The Vak, or Vedic injunction, gives directions for all these divisions. Everyone is expected to offer obeisances to the Supreme Lord and perform duties as indicated in the Vedas. Okay, so now Yamaraj continues. He says, I, Yamaraja, Indra, the king of heaven, Niriti, Varuna, Chandra, the moon god, Agni, Lord Shiva, Pavana, Lord Brahma, Surya, the sun god, Vishvasu, the 8 Vasus, the Sadyas, the Maruds, the Rudras, the Siddhas, and Marichi, and all other great rishis engaged in maintaining the departmental affairs of the universe, as well as the best of the demigods headed by Brihaspati, and the great sages headed by Bhrigu, are all certainly freed from the influence of the 2 base material modes of nature, namely passion and ignorance. Nevertheless, although we are in the mode of goodness, we cannot understand the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What then is to be said of others who, under illusion, merely speculate to know God? Wow, now this is a great verse. There's actually two verses. And it has a wonderful purport, which says, the men and other living entities within this cosmic manifestation are controlled by the three modes of nature. For the living entities controlled by the base qualities of nature, passion, and ignorance, there is no possibility of understanding God. Even those in the mode of goodness, like the many demigods and great rishis described in these verses, cannot understand the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, one who is situated in the devotional service of the Lord is transcendental to all the material qualities. Therefore, the Lord personally says that no one can understand him but the bhaktas, meaning only the bhaktas can understand him, only the devotees, who are transcendental to all material qualities. Bhaktya mam abhijanati. So that's a quote from 1855. 18th chapter, 55th verse. Bhaktya mam abhijanati. One can understand me as I am, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service, and when one is in full consciousness of me, by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. Therefore, the Lord personally says that no one can understand him but the bhaktas who are transcendental to all material qualities. As stated by Bhismadeva to Maharaj Yudhisthira in Srimad Bhagvatam, 1st canto, 9th chapter, 16th verse, Nahi asya karhichit rajan, pumam veda vidit sitam, yad viji gyasaya yukta muyanti kavayo pihi. O king, no one can know the plan of the Lord, Sri Krishna, even though great philosophers inquire exhaustively. They are bewildered. No one, therefore, can understand God by speculative knowledge. Indeed, by speculation, one will be bewildered. Muyanti. This is also confirmed by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita. Manusyanam sahasresu kaschit jatati siddhaye jatatam apisiddhanam kaschit mam vetitat vataha. Among many thousands of men, one may endeavor for perfection, and even among the siddhas, those who have already become perfect, only one who adopts the process of bhakti, devotional service, can understand Krishna. Okay, so we'll stop right there for today. We're going to continue tomorrow. And your homework is to explain why the Yamadutas were confused, why or what questions did they ask Yamaraj, and what answers did they receive. So your homework is why the Yamadutas were confused by this incident that took place with Ajamil, where the Vishnu Dutas stopped them from taking Ajamil to hell and claimed that all his sins were purified by saying the name of Narayana purely. And when they went to Yamaraj, what questions did they ask Yamaraj? Basically, asked two main questions. And what was Yamaraj's answer? Or at least, he definitely has answered one of the questions and is beginning to answer the second question by up to verse 15. Okay, so that's your homework for tomorrow. Are there any questions now? No questions? Okay. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. We'll continue tomorrow.